It's a beautiful Monday morning in the city of Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. My name is Damola Ogunshakin. Let's move straight to the front pages of the dailies. I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with NLC battles OPS over stand on planned nationwide strike. NLC alleges plot to sabotage struggle on palliatives. Economy can't afford nationwide strike. OPS insists, urges federal government NLC to avert industrial action by all means, asks federal government to demonstrate good faith in keeping promises. Pro-labor CSOs urge NLC to declare indefinite strike, pledge to support NLC in fighting for workers and others. You can see that on page 5, and this story accompanied, the three photo stories accompany the story. One is showing Adewale Smart, Oyeride NECA Director General, Joe Ajaero, NLC President, and Shegun Ajayi, Kadiri Director General, MAN. On page 26, NG Eagle. Expert fought NCAA's transfer of AOC to new owners. Kidnap in Zamfara. Rescue remaining female varsity student. Tinubu other security agencies. You can see that on page 6. On page 14, manufacturers incur heavy losses as forex crisis, inflation bite other. Home and abroad, Tinubu's Nigeria is taking its rightful place. That's coming from Mohammed Idris. And on page 31 on sports, NYG 2023, Olarinoye meets 3 gold medals for Team Lagos in weightlifting. On page 16, according to Wayne Lakenfire, it says Mubad is a story of hope turned hopelessness. A rising star shot down from the firmament, and a youth whose promising life was avoidably cut short by ash on current system. Stories above on page 4. Sarah to Tinubu. Prop missing 15 billion dollar 200 billion naira oil revenues. Nnamdi Kanu's Anthony Bruce Fain renews call for his release. You can see that on pages 8 and 13. On page 3, Wike revokes 22 allocations, give 21 embassies, 168 others 3-month grace. UNGA, Tinubu will revamp Nigeria's economy, boost energy sector. Now let's move to the Punch newspaper. Punch is leading with $10 billion debt. CBN default on payment to bank, dollars near 1,000 naira. CBN banks to begin new negotiation over restructured dollar debt. Travelers' parent grown as banks ration forex. BDC operator advise FG. You can see that on page 2, pages 4 and 5 below. NDLEA intercept 4,000 kgs of illicit drugs, arrest 12 suspects. Paid 2022 withheld salaries, ASU tells federal government. Stories above outage as a bandit older 21 Zamfara varsity female student. 40 million Nigerian children from poor families, that's according to World Bank. You can see that on page 23. And lastly, on the Punch newspaper, PCL swaps 2.6 trillion naira crude for refined products. You can see 24. Now the nation is leading with federal government steps up action against rising insecurity. President gives marching order. Ohaneze ACF raised dust over killings and kidnapping. 544.2 billion naira of COVID-19 loan debtors put under watch. Defaulters blocked from credit. You can see that on page 3. Don't tamper with nation's power asset during strike, Minister warns. Government plans a stress test to determine national grid capacity. Stories above, UBA OK's 6 billion naira for SMEs across Africa. Give Nigeria a new constitution, Afe Babalola urges AGF. Owners of revoked 189 Abuja plots get 3-month relief. Lastly, on the Nation newspaper, African equities lead global stock market returns. You can see that on page 17. Now the Guardian is leading with despite 2.8 trillion naira subsidy, power averages 3,000 megawatts in 10,000 years. You can see that on page 6. On page 6, still private sector CSOs kick as NLC decides on indefinite strike tomorrow. Paris climate agreement, Nigeria and hypocrisy of polluter crisis. You can see that on page 4. Oil theft, Navy arrests 8 vessels laden with diesel in rivers. The North in Tinubu's lofty debt servicing plan. You can see that on page 12. Wike gives a Yuguda Lambo NCL's 186 plot owners ultimatum. Nigeria has 500,000 undocumented citizens, 8,900 professionals, students in South Africa. Lastly, on the Guardian newspaper, body laments only 84 pediatric dentists for over 200 million Nigerians. You can see that on page 9 of the Guardian newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break as our guests will be analyzing the stories. Welcome back. If you're just joining me, this is Today the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ukunshakin. Joining me to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Ali Mohammed. He's the CEO of Magnus Communications, former editor of Daily Times and Concord newspaper. Good morning, Mr. Ali.
Good morning, Damlola. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Now let's go straight to the front pages of the dailies this morning, and we're starting with NLC's planned indefinite strike. What do you think about that?
Do we really need a strike now? We need all Nigerians to come together and in a conference room, brainstorm and let us find solutions to the myriads of problems facing Nigerians. Yes, there has been the deregulation of the downstream sector of Nigeria's oil industry, which means that the government do not have to subsidize importation of fuel. To start with, why are we importing fuel? An oil-producing country importing finished petroleum products into the country. There is a problem there. We have 4 refineries, but none of them is working. And up till now, from the Obasanjo regime, none of those governments have been able to fix the refineries to a working standard. It's embarrassing. Nigeria is about the only oil-producing country in the world that cannot refine its crude oil. It is most embarrassing. I think with the eradication of subsidy payments, which the president has described as a huge fraud over times, the next thing we should do now is to get our refineries working, at least 2 of those refineries. But all hopes from government circles, from the private sector level, all hopes are on Dangote refinery. Why? Did you hear what an official of Dangote refinery said? That they will be selling petroleum products to Nigerians in dollars. How sensible is that? I knew this was going to happen because Dangote thrives on monopoly. Sugar, cement, everything that he has laid his hands on, he wants to control the prices. He wants to dominate the sector. The same thing the oil industry, for which he has built a refinery. Government should not allow that to happen. The currency, the local currency of the Nigerian government and Nigerian people is Naira. The company is located in Nigeria. The company is going to be receiving crude oil allocation from Nigeria. Why will you price your finished products in dollars? Does that make sense? He is capitalizing on the fact that we do not have a functional refinery out of the 4 that we have in this country. There is this feeling in some circles that government has refused to rehabilitate those refineries to a working level because there is an alliance between them and Dangote. I don't know how far that is true. I've read that, I've heard that several times. But if it is so, that's whatever arrangement it is not in the interest of Nigerians. And it is becoming manifest every day with what we hear from Dangote refinery. that they are going to be selling petroleum products to Nigerians in dollars. If you sit back and look at all these utterances and the behaviors of the people importing fuel in Nigeria, you will know that government have some level of soft spots for these people. What stops the government? I'm not talking about Tinubu's government now, because Obasanjo was the first civilian president after Abacha, because importation of finished products started during Abacha regime. So we would have expected a civilian leader to take a bold step in ensuring that our refineries are working. The main cause of all these problems is the fact that our refineries are not working. So this allows for all sorts of shady practices, fraudulent practices in the oil sector.
All right, but in May, the president announced that subsidy has finished. But according to data analysis now, the federal government may spend about 1.68 trillion naira as subsidy on PMS from September to December this year. That the pump price of petrol should be between 890 naira to 900 naira per liter, because, of course, dollar has increased.
You see,
and it's close to 1,000 naira.
I still keep talking about the dollarization of our economy. We spend naira in Nigeria. And even in the government sector, I have been in the government official's office, and they were talking about a project, and they were estimating that project in dollars. It is embarrassing. This is a naira-based economy, not dollar-based economy. Those who are doing that are doing great damages to the economy of this country. Look at how much is a dollar today. $1 to I think how much? 1,000 naira. It is embarrassing. There is so much demand for dollars, and the moment we are unable to match our exports with the demand for dollars, it will continue to remain like this. You are importing fuel in dollars. Fuel, kerosene, diesel, black oil, low LPFO, you are importing them in dollars. And there will be a strong demand for dollars, not only in the oil sector. You are not talking about the other sectors of the economy. Those who have children abroad that must remit their school fees abroad. There is so much pressure on the dollar. There is so much demand on the dollar. And for as long as we continue to have a lot of demand for the dollar, you will continue to experience what is going on in Nigeria today, dollar scarcity, because our exports are not matching what we do with dollars. The only thing that we export that I know in Nigeria, I don't know of any other one, is crude oil. And from that crude oil, you will sell crude oil out in dollars, then import finished products in dollars. I don't know whether that makes any economic sense to you. So there is bound to be competition in the demand for dollars, because ordinary single importation of badges of petroleum products costs billions of dollars. So the government will have to come back now to subsidize, because the Tinubu government does not want its government to crumble.
So in other words,
protecting the government.
Is subsidy working? Removing subsidy.
We were made to believe that the whole thing called subsidy is a fraud. I don't know whether we can still call it fraud today. If the government itself, I have read that several times, that the government has returned to subsidy for 2 months now, because they have to prevent the importers from increasing the pump prices of petroleum products. So they are in the best position to answer that, because they have access to all the papers, they have access to all the costings and everything. It is not, because I don't want to say what cannot be proven. if it is true that the government is now paying subsidy, then there is a level of truth in the demand for subsidy, because Tinubu told us that he was coming in to scrap subsidy, which is a whole fraud. We should ask from government officials today if it is true that the government has gone back to the payment of subsidy, and to whom. Because it is very important to publish the list of those to whom the subsidies have been paid to. Very, very important.
All right, with all of this, we started with the strike and the nationwide strike. So, do you think NLC should go on with the strike because they've slammed OPS over its opposition on to the nationwide strike, saying that because they said that the economy cannot withstand this nationwide strike?
It is true that the economy cannot withstand it, but it is not in my position to advise the NLC against going on strike. I expected the government to have been proactive from the very day subsidy was eradicated, because the prices of petroleum products went up by over 400%. Transportation went up by over 400%. Cost of feeding went up. Gas, as at today, is between 13 and 14,000 for 12 kg. And the workers' salary, as at today, have not been increased by 1 naira. So it is not in my place to say there shouldn't be a strike, because I expected the government to have been proactive, sit down with labor, negotiate with them. How can somebody who is on 30,000 naira per month survive with high cost of transportation, high cost of gas? At a personal level, every week I spend between 30 to 40,000 naira worth of petroleum every week. So if I'm a civil servant on 30,000, how will I survive? So it is absolutely important to protect the interest of workers. What I expected the government to have done since the time they came in and now was to have increased the fleet of mass transit buses, not all these palliatives that are being stolen by government officials. How have you? I don't know if
I wanted to even ask you, have you seen the palliative?
I have not seen anything so-called palliatives. You will give 200 bag of rice to over 2-3 million people. I don't know whether it makes sense. All these so-called palliatives, the money that is supposed to be spent on palliatives goes into private pockets. That's what we have seen. I saw a video where some residents approached a lady that was supposed to be in charge of subsidy, tore her clothes and smashed a chair on her head, and she started bleeding. It shows the level of the wrath of the people against those in government. So we really have to be careful with when we are not ready to implement a project and we now go ahead to implement it and the project turns out to be a total failure. All this money spent on palliatives they are used to buy buses. They will force down the cost of transportation, increase workers' salary. The new government has come in with so many avenues of making money. Now, if you want to renew your car papers, you have to pay compulsory 1,000, I think 1,000 or 2,000 to renew your ownership of that vehicle. I don't know if that happens in other climes, but you can imagine the number of cars in the entire country paying 1,000 or 2,000 to renew their certificate of ownership. That is a lot of money, assuming that it is true that we have over 250 million Nigerians. So calculate that. Maybe out of the 250 million, you have 150 million driving 1 or 2 cars, not to talk of big boys that have 10 cars parked in their garages. So let the government be serious about eradicating poverty in this country. At our level, some people believe that We are very comfortable. So you just wake up every morning and see requests, some more than 10. If you continue to spend your money that way, you too will become very broke. That is the truth of the matter. We are all feeling the heat. We buy from the same market. Even the so-called person in government buy from the same market, but the only advantage they have is that they have access to money, cash that cannot be accounted for. That is the difference between us and those in government.
Right. Oh, okay. Over 2 weeks now, after the Central Bank of Nigeria promised to clear over $10 billion foreign exchange debt, old deposit bank, money bank, the Apex Bank has yet to do so, according to findings and according to Bureau de Change operators on Friday and Saturday in Lagos, Abuja, and Kano. Naira was sold between $919 naira per dollar and 995 naira per dollar.
That is 1,000 naira per dollar. You see, we must de-emphasize the use of dollars in our transaction in Nigeria. Some people that have stolen money and have plenty of money, they get whatever they have looted changed into dollars. You are hurting the economy of this country by doing that, because the money you have changed to dollars is supposed to be in circulation. But once you change that into dollars, the volume of money in circulation will continue to reduce. Everybody believes that it is comfortable to and handy to have $100,000 now than to have 100 million naira, because the cash will be everywhere. People can easily know and trace you that you have plenty of money in your house or in your office. So we must de-emphasize the spending of dollars in this country. We must reduce the rate at which we access contracts and jobs in dollars. Like I said, if our refineries were working, we won't be spending dollars to import petroleum products into Nigeria. So the earlier we get our refineries working, the better for us. That is what is affecting the whole gamut of the finance sector. We had a new central bank. He has not been able to be a new central bank governor. He has not been able to come up with a strong policy on how to strengthen the naira. Yes, agree that he has not spent more than a week. Whoever is going to be the CBN governor must have his own plans to strengthen the naira. We are still waiting for the plans of the new central governor to make the naira stronger than it is today.
But according to reports now, 40 million Nigerian children are from poor families. That's according to World Bank. And we know that all these things are affecting them. Now, according to what the president and his team said, the same fear.
The clip of the crowd that I saw receiving palliatives, those who got the palliatives were rather protesting than being happy that one bag of rice, they were given 2 cups. What will 2 cups of rice do in the life of anybody, no matter how poor that person is? But then, what I am saying is that if you spent that money buying buses in all the states of the federation, you are solving the problem of transportation, which is one of the main reasons why labor is trying to go on strike, the cost of transportation. Vote some money for agriculture. Assist private individuals who are into farming. The president said, release so much thousands of grains or whatever. I have not seen the release of those grains. Grains are supposed to be given to farmers free of charge for planting. I don't know if they are doing that, because I have not seen the video or photograph of anywhere where grains are being given to people. The only grain that I have seen are bags of rice that are not even enough for people to share. So the truth of the matter is that the effects of palliatives are not felt anywhere. They are not felt. You asked me if I have seen the so-called palliatives. I have not. I am a Nigerian and I think I'm qualified for palliatives as a Nigerian because I'm affected, my business is affected, my family is affected by government policies. But what we as private individuals are doing now is to sit down and prioritize whatever we want to do. Do you still have to be running from pillar to post with your car, or you reduce the volume of your outings? That is what we do. Instead of me to go to a party, to go to Ikorodu to attend a party now, and that trip will cost me close to 20,000 naira in terms of fuel purchase, I would rather send 10,000 to that person. Please take, oh, this is for your celebration. I'm sorry I won't be able to come. A friend sent an invitation to me that I should come to Abeokuta this week, that they are doing the remembrance of their mommy. And I keep thinking whether I should go. He's a close friend. He came all the way from the US. He is always useful whenever I'm there. But I'm weighing all the options. Should I go or not? It wasn't like that before. I will take my car and go. But because of my closeness to this person, I have to go. And I have to go with my car. That shows the level of financial management that individuals are doing now. So, government on its side should help the very poor, the most vulnerable, to alleviate the effects of some of these government policies, like the direction and scrapping of what is it now? Subsidy. So many people are suffering. No? People are suffering. I must tell you that. I see people work every morning. I see people that have been taking cars out, abandoning their cars, and buying volumes of BRT bus tickets. Yes, there is nothing stopping us from doing that. But the thing is that there must be convenience, there must be comfort in those buses, not the buses. Don't forget what happened to a lady who entered BRT bus. She was raped to death. We shouldn't have a system with such faults. We must have a reliable system, a transportation system that will be so comfortable for people to use. So if you say you are sharing palliatives, I don't think we are making any progress. The world have moved away. If you see the kind of palliatives that was shared in the UK during last COVID restrictions, you will know that Nigeria as a country didn't do anything. They will give you food that human beings should eat, not food that should be given to goats and rats.
We're talking about Mohbad Ileri Oluwa, the singer who recently passed on. And Nigerians have been out there protesting. The candle night was also held in different parts of the state and also outside the country. But what do you think about the singer and the whole the controversies and how the Nigerian police force is handling the case?
You see, the death of Mohbad is a very sad one to me, because that's a star that whose life has just been cut short for nothing. From the reports that I have read, this guy has been talking about people after his life. He wrote a petition to the State Police Command. Oh no, sorry. There is one, Camp Salem. Nobody took action on that threat letter. Instead, they were going to sacrifice the young man to satisfy the interest of those who have money. They turned somebody who wrote a petition requesting for security cover, they turned him to a criminal. That is sad. There are so much angles to the death of Mohbad. From what I read, after the exhumation of his body, they said they saw fresh blood, which gives an indication that the guy may have been buried alive. Unfortunately, he was hurriedly buried with his neck bent like this. I have never seen that kind of posture during burial. If you want to bury somebody, you look for a casket that will be the size of that person. That young man was a fairly tall person, and I'm shocked that they squeezed him into a casket that is normally used for children. It is unfortunate, but it is in the hands of the police now. We shouldn't really talk much about it. What I expect the police to do now is to probe all the angles to the stories that led to his death. The Naira Marley angle, there is this other guy with beards. What's his name?
Sam Larry.
Sam Larry. The Sam Larry angle. I have seen so many postings, video posts on the role that guy played in the life of Mohbad. He was always there to destroy whatever the guy tries to build. So they should probe all angles to that led to the death of Mohbad. There is this other angle which I heard the mother say in a video just last night. They interviewed the mother. She said she went to visit Mohbad in Naira Marley's house. That means he was living permanently in Naira Marley's house. Each time the woman got there and they offer her drink, Mohbad will carry the drink and break it inside the toilet. Each time they offered the mother food, he will carry the food and flush it in the toilet. That means there must have been serious threats to Mohbad's life, which which he escaped from at about that time. And from what the mother said, that each time Mohbad drives out, he was always afraid that it could be hacked down. By who? Who are those people that were after his life? Maybe they couldn't get him down through shooting because they could be traced. But they decided to use maybe a nurse to inject something that will kill him into his body. The Nurses Council has denied that nurse is a qualified nurse. I don't know if you read that she's not a qualified nurse. As a musician of the status of Mohbad will not willingly patronize a quack. Who took him to the hospital? Who was with him in the hospital? The guy that was with him in the hospital said they gave him an injection. From the account that I read, they gave him an injection and he passed on. He became unconscious. And they immediately removed him from that hospital. Why were they in a hurry to remove him from the hospital? Why would they not put him in a morgue? They removed him from the hospital, and the father called the chairman of the area where he lives in Ikorodu that they wanted to do burial in the night. Why would the father be in a hurry to bury his son that died in the afternoon at night? The man disagreed with him. He said, no, you can't do it. It must be in broad daylight. And they brought him the next day and buried him. When his body was exhumed, it was still fresh after 9 days. I'm not a doctor, but you can interpret the meaning of that to mean that the guy didn't die as at the time he was buried. He probably woke up when he recovered from the effect of the drugs that he took and found himself in the grave. In the process, he started struggling. He probably broke his neck, broke his hand and all that, and blood started coming out. But then, that is our own analysis as laymen. The police should do well in investigating every angle that has came up as the reasons that led to his death. The mother should be interrogated, the father should be interrogated, Boro, whatever was his name, the Malian should be interrogated. You see, all this, I don't know, this world has changed. How can somebody who is smoking hemp into drugs, exporting drugs, using private jets to export drugs, be operating in Nigeria? The NDLA didn't know, the police didn't know, the DSS didn't know, and he was operating freely up to a point that when this incident happened, he traveled out. Nobody suspected him. There is a lot to be desired in this case. And I think the police should work hard for once to redeem its image as Nigerian police.
Yes, our time is fast spent, but some people are asking for DNA test for the son.
They said, what's the name of that guy that he was
Sam
close
Larry.
to? Sam Larry. You see, all these guys, I don't take interest in what they do. They have shown photographs of where Sam Larry was with the president of Nigeria in Mecca. That Sam Larry is close to high people in high places. And people are alleging that he was forcefully sleeping with Mohbad's wife. If that is true, I think a DNA is necessary. It might be a speculation, but a DNA will reveal the truth. And this morning I read that somebody gave birth to a child from Mohbad on the day he died. I just read that online this morning.
So different stories are coming up.
So different stories are coming up. We may not get to the root of this matter except we try to investigate all the different angles. Some truth may come out of it.
So rest in perfect peace. Now let's end this on a lighter note with Mr. and Mrs. And the first person speaking this morning is Mr. Mr. says, when things are tough, it's better for worse. But when things improve, Mrs. replied, for better for us.
Things are tough, really, but it should be for better for worse. People don't even say it is for better for worse again. They say it's for better for good. But there are times that you wish you were not married. Like you just want to take care of yourself and yourself alone. But life is not like that. Every rough period always come out better. And we shall all come out of this better, yes, by God's grace.
Amen. This is where I have to draw the curtain. Thank you, Mr. Liu, for joining me this morning.
You're most welcome, Daniela.
Yes, and is now the CEO of Magnet Communications, former editor of Daily Times and Concord newspaper. He just reviewed and analyzed some of the stories with us this morning. Now, to get more of our top stories, you can follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. Have a lovely Monday.